All right, everyone, welcome back to another deep dive. Today, we're going to try to help you navigate the world of iPhones in 2025. It's a jungle out there.
It really is.
I mean, if you're thinking about upgrading right now, you're probably bombarded with specs, rumors, reviews, all this stuff.
Yeah, you got the iPhone 15 still hanging around.
You got the 16 Pro Max is like the top dog.
And then all these rumors about the 17 are starting to swirl. So.
It is a lot. So we've got a bunch of sources here that we've been digging through to try to help make sense of it all and hopefully help you figure out what iPhone is right for you.
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's not about just getting the newest, shiniest thing. It's about figuring out what actually meets your needs as a user. What are your priorities?
Yeah, for sure. So let's kind of map out the iPhone landscape right now. We've got a pretty big range, like I said, from the iPhone 15 all the way up to the 16 Pro Max.
And the interesting thing is even some of those discontinued models like the 15 Pro might still be a good deal if you can find them,
Yeah.
Just be aware of, potentially outdated features or, maybe the battery life isn't as good as it used to be, those kinds of things.
Yeah, it's all about that balance, right? Like,
Yeah.
what are you willing to compromise on?
Exactly.
But then, of course, we have the new stuff, too, like the 16 series, and we're already hearing about the iPhone 17, which should be coming out later this year. But I think the phone that really jumped out at me from all the stuff we read, the phone that seems like maybe the most interesting for like the average user is the iPhone 16.
Yeah, the 16E seems to be hitting a sweet spot,
Yeah.
in terms of that balance of price and performance.
Yeah, like seriously impressive specs on this phone.
And one of the most impressive things is it's using that same A18 chip that's in the more expensive iPhone 16 and 16 Plus.
Really?
So it's not like they skimped on the processor or anything. You're getting that same power to, run all those demanding apps or play those games smoothly.
So you don't have to like shell out the big bucks to get the really good chip.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And speaking of things that are awesome, the battery life on this thing, it can get up to 26 hours of video playback.
Oh, wow.
Can you imagine watching movies on like a transatlantic flight and not even having to worry about your phone dying? That's crazy.
That's pretty impressive.
That is wild. Okay, now it's not all perfect.
Right.
There are some compromises. And it looks like the main one is on the camera front.
Yeah, so the 16E doesn't have that ultra-wide lens that you'll find on some of the other models.
Okay.
So that might be a deal breaker for some people, especially if you really like taking, those big landscape shots where you need that wider field of view.
Makes sense.
But for, everyday photos, the main camera, it's a 48 megapixel fusion camera. It's going to take really great pictures.
Awesome. And I saw that it has that new action button that they've been putting on the newer iPhones.
Oh, yeah. That's a cool feature.
Yeah, like you can customize it to do all sorts of things, like open your favorite app, turn on the flashlight, even start recording a voice memo.
Yeah, it's all about giving you that quick access to the things you use most often.
Yeah, things like Apple's really kind of emphasizing that, like that kind of personalized control with their phones lately.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is really cool. But there's one thing I saw about the 16 that might be a deal breaker for some people. No MagSafe.
Yeah, that's true. If you're someone who relies on MagSafe chargers or accessories,
Right.
that's something to keep in mind.
For sure. All right, so it sounds like the 16E, a lot of pros, there might not be for everyone, but it seems like a really good option for a lot of people. But let's talk about like the big dogs, right? The really powerful phones in the lineup, the iPhone 16 Pro and the Pro Max.
Yeah, now we're talking.
These things, I mean, first of all, titanium design, are you kidding me?
This is next level.
That is insane. But like, let's talk about the chip in this thing, the A18 Pro chip.
Oh, yeah. This chip is a beast.
How real?
For those power users, professional video editors, 3D modelers, people who are really pushing their phones to the limit, this is the chip for you.
Yeah, if you're doing like, super graphic intensive games or something.
Absolutely.
Like this thing can handle it.
No problem.
And it's going to be super smooth too because of that promotion display.
Oh, yeah, that 120 hertz refresh rate.
It's so not like everything just feels so fluid and responsive.
Scrolling through social media, playing games, it makes a huge difference.
Oh yeah, huge difference. And the Pro models also have that new camera control button, right?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
Yeah.
It's basically like a dedicated button on the side of the phone that gives you quick access to all your camera settings so you don't have to like dig through menus on the screen.
That's pretty neat.
It's a cool idea. I've seen some mixed feedback from people. Some people love it. Some people find it a little bit awkward to use.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to try it out myself and see.
Me too.
Yeah, see what the hype is all about. But before we get too caught up in all the bells and whistles of these newer models, let's not forget about the iPhone 15 series.
Yeah, the 15 and the 15 Plus.
You know, it might not be the newest kid on the block anymore, but it's still a really solid option, especially if you're looking to save some money.
Yeah. And that A16 Bionic chip, it was top of the line just a generation ago. It can still handle pretty much anything you throw at it within, everyday tasks, social media, even some like gaming.
Yeah, absolutely. And they also have that dynamic island, which was kind of weird at first, but I've really come to like it.
Yeah, it's definitely grown on me too.
It's so much cleaner than that old notch design.
Yeah, it's a much more elegant solution.
Yeah, it really is. So, all right, we've talked about the current lineup, but now let's look ahead a little bit to the future. The iPhone 17 series.
Ooh, the crystal ball.
Yeah, the rumors are already starting to fly.
I know.
And this one is really intriguing. This ultra-thin iPhone 17 Air.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that one.
I mean, talk about pushing the boundaries of design. That thing is supposed to be ridiculously thin.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about durability though, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Like, how do you make a phone that thin and still have it be, strong enough to survive everyday use?
That's a good point. That's a good point. And there's also talk of a pretty major camera redesign for the 17 Pro models.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a horizontal camera bar instead of that square bump they have now.
Interesting.
Yeah, big change. And then there's even a rumor that they might be switching back to aluminum frames.
Wait, really? Why would they do that?
I know, right? They just went to titanium, and now they're talking about going back to aluminum.
That's kind of a head scratcher.
It is. I mean, maybe it's a cost thing. Maybe they're trying to make the phones a little bit lighter.
Yeah, or maybe it's an environmental thing. Aluminum is more sustainable than titanium.
That's true. That's true. And here's a little tidbit that really caught my attention, the rumor, is that they're significantly increasing the RAM and processing power in the 17 Pro models,
Oh, wow.
which makes me think that they're really doubling down on their AI capabilities.
Yeah, it seems like AI is going to be a huge focus for Apple moving forward.
Yeah, like they're not just going to be making our phones faster and more efficient. They're going to be making them smarter.
Exactly. Like, think about all those features in Apple Intelligence. They're already doing some pretty amazing things with AI, and it seems like they're just getting started.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've got the current lineup, the rumors about the 17, this whole focus on AI. Where do we go from here?
Well, I think the next step is to dig a little deeper into some of these key areas. What is the potential of Apple's AI strategy? What could that actually look like in practice, and how might it impact you as a user?
Yeah, for sure. And we also need to talk about, if you're thinking about buying a new iPhone right now in 2025, what are the key takeaways from all of this? How do you make sense of all this information and choose the phone that's right for you?
Exactly. We'll break it all down.
We'll break it all down. Okay, so we've talked about all the different iPhone models out there, from the budget-friendly 15 to the powerhouse 16 Pro Max. And we even got a little sneak peek into the future with the iPhone 17. But one thing that really stuck with me from all this research is this whole AI thing.
Yeah.
It sounds like Apple is going all in on making our iPhones even smarter.
Absolutely. And one development that really caught my eye is the rumor about a new Apple-designed Wi-Fi chip potentially coming to the iPhone 17.
Okay, now I'm no tech expert, but why is a new Wi-Fi chip such a big deal? Don't iPhones already have Wi-Fi?
Well, they do, but this is about Apple taking even more control over the components that make up their devices. Think back to what we were talking about earlier with the C1 modem in the 16E.
Right, right.
This new Wi-Fi chip, it's same idea. It could lead to even more seamless integration, faster speeds, and potentially even lower costs for users down the road.
So it's like they're creating this perfectly tuned ecosystem where all the parts work together flawlessly.
Exactly. And the implications go way beyond just the hardware. Think about the software, too. Apple has been steadily enhancing its Apple Intelligence features. And with more powerful processors and specialized components like this Wi-Fi chip, the possibilities for AI-powered features are pretty mind-blowing.
Okay, you've got me hooked. Paint me a picture. What could a future iPhone with all this AI power actually do? How would it change my daily life?
Well, imagine a phone that not only learns your habits, but can anticipate your needs before you even realize them. Let's say you're heading to a meeting across town. Your iPhone could analyze traffic patterns, suggest the best route, and even remind you to grab that presentation you were working on last night.
That's insane. It's like having a personal assistant who knows you better than you know yourself.
Right, and it's not just about convenience either. AI could also have a huge impact on accessibility. Imagine voice commands that are so accurate and intuitive that they make using a smartphone effortless for people with disabilities.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
So AI isn't just about making our phones faster and more efficient.
Hmm.
It's about opening up a whole new world of possibilities for how we interact with technology.
Exactly. And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just talking about specs and features. We're exploring the potential of technology to really change our lives in profound ways.
Okay, so let's shift gears for a second. We talked a lot about the future, but for those of us who are maybe thinking about upgrading our phones now in 2025, what are the key takeaways from all of this?
Well, I think the first and foremost takeaway is remember that the best iPhone for you is the one that best fits your individual needs and your budget.
Yeah,
Don't get caught up in the hype cycle or feel pressured to buy the most expensive model just because it's the newest thing out there.
right. It's so easy to get caught up in that, ooh, shiny new gadget syndrome.
Yeah, we've all been there.
But it's important to take a step back and ask yourself, do I really need all of this?
Exactly. And don't forget about those older models. The iPhone 15 might not be the newest kid on the block, but it's still an excellent phone, and you could save a significant amount of money by going that route.
That's true. And I think a lot of people don't realize that even if you don't buy a brand new iPhone, you can still benefit from some of these AI advancements through software
Yeah.
updates. Apple is constantly rolling out new features and improvements,
Mhm.
so even an older iPhone can feel pretty cutting edge.
That's a great point. And speaking of software, let's talk about Apple's ecosystem. If you're already using a Mac, an iPad, or an Apple Watch, you know how seamlessly those devices all work together.
Oh, yeah.
That's something to consider when you're choosing your next phone.
Yeah, I've got to admit, the convenience of AirDrop and being able to answer calls on my iPad is pretty addictive. But let's be honest, is staying in Apple's ecosystem always the best choice?
Well, it depends on your priorities. The integration is fantastic, there's no doubt about that. But it does come at a cost. You're essentially locking yourself into Apple's world, which can limit your choices and potentially even cost you more in the long run.
It's kind of like that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch. You're gaining convenience and seamless integration, but you might be sacrificing flexibility and affordability. It sounds like there's no easy answer.
Yeah, there really isn't. It's all about trade-offs. And that brings us to another important consideration. What are your values when it comes to technology?
Values, what do you mean?
Well, think about things like privacy, sustainability, ethical manufacturing practices. These are becoming increasingly important factors for a lot of consumers when they're making purchasing decisions.
Yeah, you're right. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of new features, but it's also important to think about the bigger picture.
Exactly. And luckily, there are more resources than ever to help you make informed decisions. Websites, reviews, even social media communities can provide valuable insights into the ethical and environmental impact of the tech we use.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, from the nuts and bolts of different iPhone models to the broader implications of AI and Apple's ecosystem. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by all this information.
Well, it's understandable. Choosing a new smartphone is a big decision, and there's a lot to consider. But
Yeah.
ultimately, it's about finding the device that best aligns with your needs, your values, and your budget.
Okay, so we've really explored this iPhone landscape.
Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about all the different models, the specs, the features,
Hmm.
the bigger picture stuff like AI and Apple's whole ecosystem. It's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest.
Yeah, it really is. Before we wrap up, I think it'd be helpful to kind of distill all of this down into some practical advice.
Yeah.
Like, imagine you're sitting here with us and you're about to hit that buy button on a new iPhone. What are the key questions you should be asking yourself?
Well, I think the first question, and it seems simple, but it's so crucial, is what do you actually use your phone for? Are you a hardcore mobile gamer? Are you a photography enthusiast? Or do you mainly use it for social media calls and messaging?
Yeah, because it's easy to get caught up in all the cool new tech. But if you're not going to use a certain feature, is it really worth paying extra for?
Exactly. And closely tied to that is your budget. iPhones come in a wide range of prices. So being realistic about how much you're willing to spend is going to help you narrow down your options considerably.
And don't forget about those older models, like we were talking about. The iPhone 15 might not have all the bells and whistles of the 16, but it's still a very capable phone, especially if you're looking for a good value.
Speaking of value, you could also consider buying a refurbished or pre-owned iPhone. You can often find really great deals that way. Just make sure you buy from a reputable seller and check the warranty.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've thought about our needs, our budget, and the possibility of buying pre-owned. What else should we be thinking about?
But we talked a lot about Apple's ecosystem, and if you're already using a Mac, iPad, Apple Watch, staying within that ecosystem can be super convenient. everything just works together seamlessly.
Oh, yeah. I love that. Like, I can start an email on my phone and finish it on my Mac, or AirDrop is like a lifesaver.
Right. But it's important to acknowledge the potential downsides, too. Staying in Apple's world can limit your choices and potentially cost you more in the long run.
Yeah, it's kind of like that old saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch.
Exactly.
You're getting that convenience and integration, but you might be giving up some flexibility and maybe even some savings.
Right. And it all comes back to what we were talking about before, your values. Are you comfortable with a company having that much control over your digital life? Are there alternative options out there that might better align with your priorities?
So it's not just about the phone itself. It's about making a conscious choice about the kind of tech ecosystem you want to be a part of.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, technology is constantly evolving. What seems like a must-have feature today might be obsolete tomorrow. So try not to get too caught up in chasing the latest and greatest.
Choose your iPhone wisely, use it intentionally,
Yeah.
and most importantly, don't forget to disconnect every now and then and enjoy the real world.
Couldn't have said it better myself. It's been a pleasure diving into the world of iPhones with you today.
Likewise.
We hope you found this deep dive informative and empowering.
And to all of our listeners out there, thanks for joining us. Until next time, happy tech exploring.